All right, guys, so I just grabbed some sawhorses. I basically took a few minutes to sort of sort the wood, which I'm glad I did because there's some bunk wood in there that I think I might try and get replaced. Definitely some of the 2x10s that are headers for the big barn door. But I grabbed some of the pine, some of the pressure treated for the top and bottom plates of the back wall, set them up on the horse, got them cut to length. Very easy. 8 foot, 10 foot, 18 foot back wall. I'm gonna take my time now. I'm gonna lay these out, clamp them together, make sure everything is nice and tight, and then I'm gonna grab my plans, which I drew up maybe a week or two ago. I've been thinking about it for 3 years, but I decided to just draw up the plans, just a nice rough sketch, so that I didn't have to really spend too much time thinking when I actually got to building. I don't do well when I have to think and build. Just kidding. I basically am going to lay everything out, and then I'm really going to take my time marking up this back wall, making sure I got all my studs marked, all my kings, my jacks. I have 3 windows, like I said, going across, so making sure I cut, place them where they need to be. You really just want to double and triple check, because this is where you really make mistakes and can cost you a lot of time. But I'm going to just take my time. I'm also going to make sure that I have my measurements for the actual building. And I know that sounds silly, but this base is 26 by 20. The building's 24 by 18. It's 4-inch ties. So I left myself, 14 inches, 16 inches, something like that, 16 inches. So, that'll, from the outside wall, that basically should give me about 6 or 7 inches of wiggle room. So I just want to make sure, do I have to shift my wall up this way? That way, when I'm done and I start building my wall in place, when I stand it up, I sort of want it to be right where it is. This isn't like having a subfloor where I can just hammer stuff back and forth and slide it and have dudes grab it. It's just me. So when I put the wall jacks on and lift this wall up, I really just want to have it spot on, or only have to kind of wiggle it just a little bit or tap it into place. So this is where you really want to slow down and take your time. And I also just like to add this. I don't normally talk. Most of the times I just set the camera up and do like a time lapse. I'm going to try and bring the camera in close some of the times and show you. But again, I'm just building a glorified shed. It's no big deal. No subfloor, because the cistern's sitting, 15, 20,000 cistern sitting. I just wanted it pretty much on earth. But build whatever you want, man. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't build something, unless it's an inspector, then you're going to have to adhere to his rules, which if you have UCC in your area, it's pretty straightforward. And if you've built anything before, it shouldn't be too difficult. And if you don't have code, you should probably want to build to code anyway. It's your building, so you definitely want it to last. But don't let anybody tell you what you can or can't do. The only way to learn is to try stuff. It's the first house I ever built. You know what I mean? Our plumbing video has hundreds of thousands of plays. I'm not a plumber. First thing I've ever plumbed was this house, but I did a lot of research. I made sure I followed all the code. I did follow all the code, despite what anybody else out there says. We did pass with flying colors. But that's the first house I ever built. I'm an electrician, sort of by trade-ish. So, that's really where I specialize. And I didn't even really get to show you guys the electric in this house, because I was kind of hoping that I would do one big video once I was done this building, since it was our accessory building. But my point is don't not build because other people are telling you, that's right, that's wrong. The only way to learn is to build it, to do it, to try it. And when you do it, that's when you figure out better ways to do something for the next time, which I'm hoping, building the house helps me on this building to not waste time in areas that I spent too much time on in the house, and I spend a little more time on areas that I may not have focused on when I did build the house. So just go out there and do it, man. Have fun. So here's my little back wall diagram. See, there's not much to it. Basically, I just needed to know where I was laying out my hopper windows. That's it. All right, I got everything marked out. I had to double check the windows, which I'm glad I did because I was off on one of them. But I've got everything marked now. I'm just gonna let the tape measure go back and use the square to kind of mark everything off, and we can start separating and shooting stuff together. S for a stud, K for a king, J for a jack, D for a dude. All right, so I'm all done marking it. Basically, I can take my clamps off now, separate the wood. I'm gonna go grab some of the 104 by 5/8, and we're gonna start shooting stuff in when I get the compressor all started up. One thing I just wanna note that, just a small thing, is that I don't know if it's what they consider a California corner, but you do wanna make sure that you have nowers for the walls going up. So, basically you're putting up a 2x6 wall, so it's 5.5-inch wall thickness. So when I have all my 16 on centers for when I put up the T111, but I also made sure that 5.5 inches in on both sides, I also capped off the end with another 2x4 so that when I stand the walls up, I have something to shoot into in this wall, not just one end stud. So keep it in thought while you're laying it out. It makes it a little bit easier. Let's get some wood. Let's get the generator started. Let's get the compressor filled. Start putting the wall together, baby. That's right, baby. I'm gonna take my time doing the jacks and the headers because we'll be eventually putting an overhang off of this building. So it'll basically attach below the windows and then it'll go down, and on the back side of this building is where we'll process a lot of the wood, or we'll at least store a lot of the wood. So the objective here is to kind of put the windows in a decent spot that they're not so high that it just is, that you can't really see out them. Not that I really am doing windows on the back to see out, I'm really just doing it to let light in, but I also want to make sure that it's not going to interfere with putting any type of, essentially like band joist on in order to do that overhang. Or I should say ledge, or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to shut the camera off. I'm going to do a few measurements. I do already have them on the plans, but now that I have the wall built, I just want to double check myself, so we'll be back in a little bit. All right, so I'm pretty far along on this wall. My phone was acting a little weird, probably because I dropped it a week ago and cracked the screen. But I was charging the phone while I was doing some of the work. I decided not to do headers on this wall because there's really no bearing. There's nothing load bearing sitting on any of these walls. So, and they're just 3 little hopper windows, just like I did in the Shabin, so I'm not too worried about it. But I basically have everything shot in, and I'm working on pretty much framing in the last window, so I thought I'd turn the camera on, show you guys what I'm doing. I'm gonna get all the pieces cut, and then I'll bring you over there and shoot everything in. All right, so typically when I remember, I'll take the piece that's gonna be my header for the window, or just my top piece, slip it in, and mark all my studs. Start up the compressor. All right, before I get too ahead of myself, I'm basically going to get the bottom and top plates put on. The bottom plate, that double bottom plate that's weather treated, is basically going to be the same thing, just in reverse, as long as I feel like it overlaps enough, 2 feet, maybe a little more. And then the top plate, I'll mark off 5.5 inches on this side, 5.5 inches on the other side to accept the top plate coming from these side walls. And then I'll basically piece in something here. That way we'll pretty much be ready to lift this wall once I put some bracing down on the lawn. All right, I'm gonna get it all clamped up and then we'll start shooting everything together. I'll double check myself before I shoot it together just to make sure I didn't forget anything. But I think I'm okay. Mentally, that is. Not bad. Not bad. especially since the wood only got delivered like 4 hours ago. That's pretty awesome. All right, I'm gonna get set up. I'll bring you guys back when I'm ready to lift this bad boy. I'm not quite sure if I'm gonna use the wall jacks or I may use one of my get out of jail free cards and call my neighbor and see if him and his son want to come up and lift the wall with me. I don't really think it would be that bad, and I think we'd have a little more control if we were able to have 2 guys hold it while I brace it, but we'll see what happens. If I have to raise it myself, I have to raise it myself, no big deal. But I'll catch up with you guys in a little bit. I'm gonna take a quick break. I am ready to lift this wall. Just need like 5 of you guys to show up, man. Where's everybody at from YouTube? Come on, man. Where are you guys at? So let me show you what I'm gonna do down here. I did write my neighbor to see if him and his son wanted to come up and try and just lift it. Like I said, I think there'd be a lot more control, and I'd feel better if there was 2 people that could hold it. You know, once we got it, you know, almost vertical. You know, you guys know once that wall gets, you know, almost 95%, that weight just sort of disappears. But let me show you kind of what I'm gonna do to brace it. Again, we're on the lawn back here. Not like it's the first time it's ever been done, but I drove some EMT that I had laying around into the ground. Pull. Then I used some 1/2-inch EMT straps to mount a piece of 2x6 too. And then I just used one of the 2x4 or 2x4x14s that I'm going to essentially use for the wall jacks if I can't get anybody to help me lift the wall. But what I did was just kind of threw 1 screw in, lined them up with a couple of the studs in the wall. And there's 2 on the end that I hope can go up maybe like 5 feet. And then this one in the center should be able to get mostly almost to the top plate. So we'll have like a nice support up top in the center and 2 off to the sides that are about 5-6 feet in the air. So we should be in half decent shape. When we put the wall up, I screw it all together and kind of brace it when it's nice and plumb. I have a feeling we'll be okay, at least for the night. And then I'm gonna build that far wall tomorrow if I can get this up. And well, no, I'm gonna get this up. Tomorrow I'll build that other wall, like I said. Even if I decide to put a window, it's just 1 window, so it shouldn't take me very long. Only difference will be is I'll put a header in that one since we'll have the trusses, you know, going across that direction. But the idea is that, you know, brace it down here. Once these are all shot into the wall, when it stands up, I'll come down here and sink a few more screws to keep everything nice and steady. The middle one, I didn't have any more braces for, any more straps, so I just kind of I sandwiched 2 pieces of wood around the pole with screws right up against it. So it turns a little bit until I put this pole in, then it should hold it nice and steady. But this is what you got to do when you're working by yourself off grid, right? But hopefully I can, you know, hopefully this wall will go up with no problem. And this is the wall that's not the most scariest, but you know, the first wall is always a little freaky. But if I can get this up, get it braced, I think we'll be in really good shape. But if it doesn't happen tonight, it'll happen tomorrow. I'm going to wait for a return text, and if I don't get one, I think I'll pack up for the night. It's about 5, and then I'll start nice and early tomorrow morning. And if nothing else, we'll get them wall jacks out. For those of you who didn't get to see me using the wall jacks when we built the house, me and my brother and my dad were here for the first wall, and then the next 3 walls I pretty much banged out. I think my dad might have been here for this wall right here, but all the 28-foot end walls and all the interior walls with those wall jacks, those things are awesome. And I'd like to actually show you guys how they work. If I don't have to use them, I don't really want to, because I can't really shoot into a subfloor to keep the 2x4 from slipping out on me once the wall jacks go up. The only real option I have was thinking about bringing the side-by-side in here and parking it up against it so I could just chalk it against like a wheel or something. It doesn't put a ton of pressure, but God forbid the 2x4 slip out on this rock or roll on this modified, that wall would just fall right on me. So I don't really want to take that chance. But we'll see what happens. If nothing else, the sun is setting. It's going to get cool real fast. So I guess if nothing else, I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow. Not a bad day, though. Wood got delivered. Got the 1 wall all set up, built. Maybe I'll just put this up as 1 video instead of waiting until the end like I always do. But I always appreciate you guys checking in, and it was a really good day. I'm excited. I'm sure you guys are, because I've been talking about this damn building forever. So it's actually coming to fruition, man. We are making the accessory building happen. And I'm excited because now I'll have a place when this is all done to take all the stuff that's in the house and in the carports and put it in its permanent location. So everybody have a great night, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.